Greetings. We just finished talking, discussing one part of this discussion regarding the promise of the Lord to the Israeli Jews. And we explained how this promise had two parts. There is 15 verses in Deuteronomy 28, 15 verses of good promises, wonderful, endless, wonderful blessings, great blessings, if they obey the Lord and take care of His commands carefully. And we finished with verse 64. If they don't obey and are not careful about the commands of the Lord, then endless curses, the worst kind of curses you can imagine, piles of curses, the Lord will pour over their head. Now we are left with the question, which part of the promise did come to pass? Was it the part about the blessing, endless blessing, wonderful, beautiful, wonderful blessings? Or the part with the curses? We have 15 verses, 50 verses. 15 of blessing, 50 verses of curses. Piles and piles of curses. So which one? History tells us that it came to pass. Also the book, also the Jewish Christian book, testifies to which part really come to pass. The curses or the blessings? We will see that. So, at this point, let us go briefly, very quickly. The Lord made a promise to Abraham that his offsprings will have the land between the two rivers, from the Nile of Egypt to the great river Euphrates, in old Babylon, or today's Iraq. And we proved that this promise was not for Isaac. They lie, the Zionist, rotten Zionist lie. This is not about the Israeli Jews. This is about the Ishmaelites from the Muslims. And they are in this land, even today, between the two rivers. Egypt belonged to the Muslims, Jordan and Iraq belong to the Muslims. Only a large part of Palestine now in the hands of the invaders from the Israeli Jews. Very well. And we proved that Ishmael is the firstborn son to Abraham, legitimate son, not a bastard, as they wish us to believe, those rotten Zionists who lie about this. Or they call Hagar the maid servant. And we proved that, the Lord said in the promise that also that the offsprings of Abraham will be like the dust of the earth or the bodies in the heaven. And for a good portion of the videos, we proved from the book, reading from the book, and history tells us how they have been chop all the time. And they are the smallest among the nations. So the promise to make the offsprings of Abraham like the dust of the earth or the bodies in the heaven does not apply to Isaac. It applies to Ishmael. And then we ended with a discussion about the promise of the Lord of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to the Israeli Jews before they entered the land of milk and honey, Palestine. Now let's end this part of the discussion by reading one more verse from Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 65. After the Lord promised to put them all over the world from one corner to the other, and we said that the rotten Zionists lie, that this is about Babylon and Egypt. No, it is not. He did not promise to bring them from all over the world, as the rotten Zionists claim. And they are back in the land today because of the stupid West, not the wish of the Lord. The Lord had nothing to do with this. And they are going against the wish of the Lord who plucked them out. And he said, as it brought joy to his heart to take him to the Holy Land, it also brings joy and pleasure to his heart to pluck them out, to uproot them from Palestine, the Holy Land. It brings him pleasure to do this, and he did. All right, 65, Deuteronomy 28:65 says, the Lord promised that he will bring a nation from a distant land, that they speak a language Israelis do not know. So if he does this, because they don't follow and obey his commands and be careful about them, so what will happen when this nation will uproot them? The Babylonians. Verse 65. Among those nations you will find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot. Now, I'm sorry, this is not about Babylon. This is about what we finished reading in 64. This is 65. 64 said, the Lord will put them all over the world from one corner to the other corner. And now he's saying, once he applied this, when this comes to pass, and they are all over the world from one corner to the other corner, like we have seen them for almost 2,000 years. For almost 2,000 years. Few years after Jesus, they were uprooted and recently returned 70 years back with the help of the stupid West. So what will happen when they are uprooted from the land by Christian Rome? Christian Rome uprooted them. What will happen? When they will spread all over the planet. All right? Among those nations, you will not find no repose. They cannot have any rest. They will not have any rest. No resting place for the sole of your foot. They will not rest. All right. Well, this is not exactly true. In the matter of fact, for hundreds of years, the Israeli Jews did have some rest among the Middle East countries, the Arabs, to be specific. They had so much rest. They were treated like, any other citizen of any country in the Middle East. The Moroccan Jew, they were treated like Moroccans. Egyptians, the same. Tunisian, the same. Lebanese, the same. Syrian, the same. Jordanian Jews, the same. Even in the Arabian Peninsula, they were treated in a very good manner, with respect. They disrespected the Jews because they are stingy and rotten, most of the time. Other than that, they were normal citizens. Nobody will trouble them. Nobody will try to stir problems with them. And Jews love to live together, always, even in those countries that they used to be like normal citizens, as they are in the West today, in the USA. Are they any different than any American citizen? No, they are not. On the contrary, most of them, they live better than most Americans. This was their state. They were better than most of the Arabs. Among the Arabs, they used to trade with land, realty, and trade with diamonds and gold, the most precious commodities, for hundreds of years, and still. And they were very rich. They had no fears whatsoever among the Arabs for hundreds of years. Even after they have been kicked out from the Arabian Peninsula for trying to kill the messenger and the prophet of Islam. Even after they tried to kill him, and they were kicked out of Arabian Peninsula, but in the rest of the Arab world, they kept living in peace. Wonderful peace. Nobody troubled them. They can work like any other citizen, and they can make the best living they used to make, trading with real estate and gold and gems and jewels. Very well. But they had no rest, even in the Middle East, in the Arab countries. Why? They always had a dream to have their own property, their own land. Because of some rotten Zionists among them, always stirred this idea: we need a land for us in our name, a Jewish state. So leave the Arab nation alone, and perhaps the East, the Near East, the Far East, Jews were living there in peace because the nature of those countries, the people in those countries are so kind and tolerant, like India, like Malaysia. Those people are so tolerant and so kind. So the Jews were living in the Middle East, the Near East, the Far East. Wonderful, wonderful life. But they did have hardship in South America, and they used to build high walls to surround themselves, to protect themselves, because of the evil, rotten behavior. South Americans are wonderful people, kind, loving, passionate, but the Jews are not. They were like a foreign object in a kind society. So they used to protect themselves. Always they build high walls. Even today in Palestine, they build high walls, thinking that this will protect them. However, in the West, especially in Europe, specifically in Europe, this prophecy applies to the letter. They had no repose, no rest. They were always having problems. They claim, according to them and their lies, whether this is true or false, that in Russia they used to live a miserable life. In Russia, always weary, no rest for them. They were always upset and in fear. They lived in Russia in fear. They lived in Europe in fear. They stirred so much problems with the Germans until finally Hitler came to power, and he was fed up with the stupidity of the Jews in Germany. See, he killed, many thousands of them, and they lie about 6 million. This is a stupid lie. That's not true. They can lie as they wish, but one day history will tell us the truth. Somebody will have the courage to come and tell us the details of what happened to the Israeli Jews, really happened, the true story, during Hitler time. I'm not trying to defend Hitler for what he did. He launched a world war. I'm not forgetting that. But regarding the issue of the Jews, they lie miserably with rotten, evil spirits. Hitler did not do 6 million of them. That's a big lie, a huge lie. But the question is, and we need to ask this question, and we need an answer, we deserve an answer, why Hitler killed thousands of them? Why? What did they do? They are rotten, I know. From history, we repeated this during the videos. What they did in Egypt, what they did in all over. They have rotten history. Go back to those videos and see the rotten history of the Israeli Jews. You will see it since their beginning. Remember the story of their brother Joseph? They threw into the well and they sold him to merchants who took him to Egypt. From their beginning, they are rotten. Reuben, the firstborn, he committed incest with his mother-in-law, the wife of his father Jacob. Judah with the wife of his son, deceased son, Tamar. And so much. Rotten, evil, rotten history. What did they do in Germany? We need an answer to this. Somebody should have the courage to tell us exact, minute details, what they did to deserve this death. Also in Germany, in France, the French They accused them to be the cause of black fever that killed thousands of the French because of the rotten Jews and the slum that they live in. Shakespeare of England, he wrote a novel, The Merchant of Venice, mocking the Jews. They were hated everywhere, except in the stupid USA. Nobody can understand why those stupid love them. And some of them, even are slaves, rotten slaves, to the state of Israel today. Why? What the hell for? Anyway, they will not have rest, and that's exactly what happened. Almost all over the world, almost, except the Middle East, the Near East and the Far East. Continue this next time. Take care.